Moderating the session. We'll be speaking to the members of IPNeSA today to reflect on their journey since IPNeSA was established 2 years ago here at the UN headquarters in New York. So I'll ask the panel here to introduce themselves, and then after the introductions, then we'll start the discussion part. I'll start with Mr. on my far left.
Good afternoon. Kindness in my native language. Thank you very much, Jean. My name is Nicodemus Cooper. I come from Botswana, from a small village called Lokwabe village in the Kalahari district. And that district conveniently shares the border with Northern Cape, which is on the on the South African side, and also Hardap region, which is on the Namibian side. And interestingly, they are all within what we call the Kalahari Basin or the Kalahari Desert. So I'm here today as a founding member of IPNeSA, Indigenous Peoples Network of Southern Africa, and I'm a board member since then. And I come from the Nama community. Glad to be here.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Helena Steenkamp. I am from the Kalahari, from the Komani San community, also known as the Southern Kalahari Bushmen. And I am the youth representative for IPNeSA. Yeah, and it's good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Greetings. My name is Gigabile Mohodu. I come from a village known as Mababi. You might know Mababi Depression, juxtaposed by Chobe National Park and Muremi Game Reserve, and adjacent to the mighty Savuti Marsh, and within the Okavango Delta. I am the founding member of IPNeSA, currently holding the position of Secretary General, and I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you so much for the introductions. I will get right into it. So it has been 2 years since IPNeSA has been launched. I'll ask the panel to really reflect and tell us what the journey has been since establishing this network, and also to tell us a bit about the mandate of IPNeSA as a body. Mr. Mahudu can go first.
Thank you very much, Jean. I think I will take the establishment and leave the mandate for others. The establishment of Indigenous Peoples Network of Southern Africa was as a result of a lacuna within the indigenous movement in Southern Africa. Since the fall of Working Group of Indigenous Minorities in Southern Africa, there was no actually a movement that was speaking to the issues of indigenous people in the region. And the fact that WIMSA was concerned about the San people only, there was a need, therefore, to have an organization or a network that will speak to the issues of the indigenous people within the Southern African region. So around 2023, we were brought together by Jamal International, which was headed by Leslie Johnson by then, who saw the need to bring together leaders from Southern Africa, Botswana, Namibia, South Africa, to speak and discuss the establishment of a network that will speak to the issues of indigenous people. So through the support of Jamal, we convened in Cape Town in 2023 in November, and we discussed as leaders the need to establish an organization called, or a network called IPNeSA. We have not yet gone to the communities, the indigenous communities, but it was launched here some years back. The reason for launching it here was to attract an audience that is so strategic to the life and blood of IPNeSA. And we are yet to go to different communities to speak to them about the establishment of this organization. We are planning to have an annual general meeting this year, November, in Namibia, where we'll bring together different indigenous communities from Botswana, Namibia, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Angola, and other Southern African countries where our brothers and sisters are found. So I think this is a bit of a journey, or the establishment of the organization known as IPNeSA. We really work with, and we are the voice of the indigenous communities in Southern Africa. We saw the need to bring, to establish an organization such as this one, so that we can speak with one voice, because our issues as indigenous people in Southern Africa are the same. I think I will stop here to give others the chance. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity again, and for the question. For myself, when I'm reflecting back, I can just say it was really like a calling when we were gathering in Cape Town in November 2023 to come together as Khoi and San people, trying to see how we can form an organization that are able to represent us regionally and globally. And since then, it is really a milestone especially for us as IPNeSA to be here for the third year, representing our communities, and being able to, in this platform globally, to speak from grassroots level. Because for years, we as the Khoi and San peoples of Southern Africa, we were usually invited by organizations, international organizations, like one would come, only one probably from Southern Africa to represent us. But since we started IPNeSA, we were lucky to have generous funders who made it possible for us to be a bigger group coming here from different communities in South Africa, Namibia, and Botswana, and not like how it was for the past years. We would only be like one person from Southern Africa or two people from Southern Africa representing, and most of the time it's usually people that are not on grassroots, that are not in the communities, not knowing the real challenges in our communities. So yeah, it was quite a journey if I look back on the path and how far we come to be really being able to be here for the third time representing Southern Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it's really important and it's very interesting, the conversations that we are having, and Mr. Mukhodu and Helena have both expounded on the importance of having a network representing South Africans. So I just want you to delve deeper into that and tell us, for you personally as an activist that has been in the movement for quite some time, why do you think IPNeSA is a strategic, body that has now been launched for Southern African indigenous communities, and because there is a gap that has been identified and the importance is established. But from your perspective, tell us, what do you think? Why do you think it's a strategic body as it stands right now in amplifying voices of indigenous Southern African people?
Thank you very much, Jane, for that question. For me, it's a very special occasion because 2 years ago, I sat exactly here and launching IPNeSA, and I'm here today reflecting on what IPNeSA stands for, what we've achieved, and the way forward. So my colleagues have really unpacked it nicely, why there was that need, because establishment was that for the longest time as indigenous peoples or indigenous peoples-led organizations in our respective countries, it has shown that we worked in silos more. And that was now defeating the purpose of bringing the unified voice as a collective. Because as Southern Africa, as most will be aware, we are only divided by the colonial borders. But before those borders, the San and the Kwekwe roamed around this place freely without any borders. So why not bring up an organization that will really see us or bring us together as one family? Because we had established that we may be sitting in different countries, but we continue to see different challenges that affect our communities. So IPNeSA came as a great solution, or rather a solution that needs to be made great, and great by us, the indigenous peoples of the Kwekwe and the San. And it is important that I put that into context because I have the protocol that we used when we sat exactly here 2 years ago. Resource rights protocol, which I would like to read for the benefit of those listening to us globally. In response to the multifaceted challenges encountered by indigenous peoples across Southern Africa, issues like land and resources rights, marginalization, and inadequate access to essential services, a collaborative initiative known as Indigenous Peoples Network of Southern Africa emerges as a proactive measure. IPNeSA aims to champion the recognition and safeguarding of resource rights, cultural integrity, and sustainable development for indigenous people. This initiative involves the establishment of a committee comprising of representatives from indigenous communities, organizations, and allied partners. Their collective focus spans various crucial domains, including land, mining, ocean economy, biodiversity, and gender concerns. As part of this institutional framework, the initiative seeks to formulate a comprehensive code of conduct and a legal framework to govern its activities. The overarching goal is to bridge existing gaps within indigenous advocacy structures, amplifying the voices of IPs in pivotal decision-making processes. This includes advocating for legislative changes that uphold indigenous rights and livelihoods, positioning IPNeSA as a significant force for indigenous empowerment and advocacy in Southern African context. And this really gives the context as to the ambition that IPNeSA really set themselves for. And we are here today taking pride on the little attempts that we've made in the 2 years. For IPNeSA to have had last year, a year after its launch, to have a policy conference in Maun and be able to formulate policies that will govern IPNeSA and be able to make impact in this region. So this is the scope and this is the ambition, and we know we needed to be ambitious for us to really match the global spaces that we continue to occupy now. I think I should hold there at this moment. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So as I was listening, you mentioned for the listeners and those who are watching from home, I just want to understand, Mr. Mokhodi, when we're speaking about indigenous, Southern African indigenous people, can you tell us who are these people we are looking at before we look into your achievements and how far you have come since you have established? Who are the indigenous San community that IPNeSA stands to represent as a body? If you can just briefly tell us that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jean. And as I delve into the question, let me just state categorically that we want to tell the world that we have two categories of people within the indigenous communities of Southern Africa. These are Khoi people, or the Khoi, and the San people. There is a misconception in terms of identifying us that there is a term used that we are Khoisan. I would like to state here and now that they are people who are called Khoi, and they are indigenous people also called San. There are no people who are called Khoisan. This is a misguided that we would like to correct, because it might have been an anthropological connotation that has been used to define people who are hunter and gatherers within the context of Southern Africa. To answer your question, we're talking about the Khoi and the San people. The Khoi I found in Botswana, Namibia, South Africa. But in Botswana, the San people are not referred as the Khoi because they are the San people. The Khoi in Botswana are the Nama people, and who are also found in South Africa and Namibia. And in South Africa, the Khoi are the Nama, are the Koran, are the Kruger. These are the people that are called as Khoi with their different identities in terms of tribes. Because, you know, we should remember that indigenous people are quite a nation. If you look at the San communities, you find that they are the Junkwasi, they are the Kanikwe, they are the Tsiha, they are the Gorokwe, they are the Shuakwe. They are different tribes within the San communities that make up the San. And these are the people that could be found in Angola, in Zimbabwe, and in South Africa, and in Namibia. These are the people that we represent because they are distinctively identical in terms of suppression and marginalization by the different governments in Botswana, Namibia, South Africa, Angola, and Zimbabwe. You see that they have something in common. One, their land has been taken away from them. Two, they are not recognized either as part of the citizenry or as indigenous people. Three, they've suffered a lot of relocation from their ancestral land, giving way to game reserves, national parks, agriculture, and a lot of things in the name of development. And these are the people that IPNeSA seeks to represent, because IPNeSA was made by these people to be the voice of the indigenous people of Southern Africa. I thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll ask Nicodemus to tell us what your milestones are. I've heard you started speaking about a policy meeting that you had. That's wonderful to learn. Can you tell us more about the achievements that you have so far since your establishment 2 years ago? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jean. there is quite a number of achievements. One that I can mention, it's exactly here. The two colleagues accompany me. We started this together. We are still here together. That is a positive sign already. And the three of us are here because we represent the rest of the members who did not make it here because of resources. But we are here as a team, and we only had one member not being able to finish the line with us to date. So that shows that how intact we are, or for a common vision. One of the other achievement definitely is that we know organizations exist, but some do not go to an extent of doing official registration, which we did. A lot of organizations exist, but they do not get the opportunity to come and attend platforms like this. So IPNeSA started really on a high note, registering an organization of this magnitude and coming to launch it in New York during a platform that we consider as the highest platform for indigenous peoples globally. So that is huge for us because we just turned 2 years last week on the 16th of April, because that's when we launched IPNeSA 2 years ago. So the third achievement, I will relate it to the policy conference that I mentioned, that for an organization to meet and be able to formulate policies, that shows the seriousness or the vision of an organization. That is a big achievement. And in that very profound and outstanding during that conference is who was in the house. We had the special rapporteur, United Nations Special Rapporteur for Indigenous Peoples' Rights, Dr. Albert Barume, who at the time was on a country visit in his mission. In the house, we had the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, Honorable Minister Nelson Rama Otona, and we had the leader of opposition, who in Maung, that is his area of jurisdiction. So by virtue of him being the member of parliament in that area where we hosted the conference, he was generous enough to also attend our event because he was the host. Obviously, when the minister attends, then someone closer to his level should be able to welcome him. And not only that, my comrade I know will add on the achievements that we have achieved, but I know we have attended other international forums, including the COP16 and the biodiversity conferences, and amongst others. I know there is more. And this really, to me, is just to see to the extent in which IPNeSA is really eyeing, and we cannot thank enough our supporters who really made this possible, and we will definitely appreciate them at the end of this discussion.
Okay, so I have a question for Helena. You were speaking about representation and a collective voice at platforms such as the UN PFII. Do you think with the establishment of IPNeSA that there has been some impact in terms of the representation of indigenous people from Southern Africa per se?
I can say there is an impact in a way that people at home can really follow us when we are here in New York. And also we had opportunity all the 3 years to being able to read our statements from our different countries like South Africa and also our regional statements. And that is quite a big thing. And to know that we are part of our recommendations getting to the permanent forum. And the impact is also that us being here, our communities really have hope. Because as I said, for years we wasn't really, or if we were represented, it wasn't from grassroots level. So especially I can tell, because when we go back here from these platforms, we are able to engage with our communities and tell them where we was, and they really do see it as big achievements, and there's a lot of hope. So I do believe that establishing IPNeSA was really a good thing for us, especially for Southern Africa. Yeah, so I think the impact is there, and you can even feel it in our communities.
So, Mr. Mogodu, we also spoke about silos and the place of IPNeSA in addressing these gaps that we have in Southern Africa as people and organizations, even grassroots organizations. So what do you think, or rather, is there space for IPNeSA to look into smaller grassroots entities that represent certain communities, Khoi communities, strengthening, organizing, and unifying a voice that then supports IPNeSA, which is now regionally and nationally representing communities? Is there that space and that how do I put it? That need, and yes.
Yeah.
Can you tell us, is there a plan from IPNeSA to really strengthen that voice and unify, and then support a voice that comes up collectively in representation for Southern Africa as a whole?
Yeah, thank you so much, Jean. We believe there is a space. Because I remember when we started, we said there was a gap in representation of indigenous people from Southern Africa. That was the reason why there was a need to establish the organization. And we must remember that the role of IPNeSA is also not only at the grassroots, but also at the regional and international. At the regional, in the sense that we are there to influence policies from different countries, especially SADC members, Botswana, Namibia, South Africa, Angola. We are there to look at different policies that affect our people. You take, for instance, we talk about recognition. If you take Botswana, you saw that for so many years, the indigenous people were not recognized. It is the stand of African governments that all people in Africa are indigenous. But I think we would like to borrow from Albert Barome's perspective that indigeneity should not be seen as who came first or what, but it should be looked at people who have suffered injustice for a long time. Now, if you look at people who suffered injustice for a long time, these are the indigenous people of Southern Africa. And this, we believe sincerely that, their rights need to be given back. They are land. If you take South Africa, for instance, South Africa, on their national anthem, they've got a San language. But unfortunately, the Constitution does not recognize them. It only recognizes 11 languages. But there might be efforts in South Africa to develop the language of the San people. But what I say is that first you need to identify and recognize the people so as to be able to give them their rights. If you look in South Africa also, in terms of expropriation law, that people whose land were taken away from them, or especially in 1930, their land should be given to them. You see that the indigenous people, the Khoi and the San people, are excluded from that dispensation because their land were taken away from them long before 1930. So these are kind of the things that we are talking about. You take Botswana, for instance, you will find that the constitution of Botswana does not recognize the indigenous people, and we are thankful that the current government is doing everything, and we believe that the constitution is going to be overhauled in order to recognize the languages of the indigenous people, to recognize the indigenous people as indigenous people and also as distinct people within Botswana. And you look at other legislation in Botswana, acts of parliament, you see that they don't recognize the way of life of the indigenous people. So this shows that there's really a space within these countries to speak to the issues of indigeneity and the issues of the Khoi and the San. We also, if you take development, you'll find that most of the indigenous land, you go to Namibia, you go to Zimbabwe, you go to South Africa and Botswana, their land has been taken away from them. So we are talking about restoration here, the land that has been taken away from the indigenous people. And we are talking about the deprivation that has happened because of lack of development in their communities. Go to any community in Southern Africa, you'll find that there is no running clean water. You'll find that there are no roads. You'll find that, some of the basic things that are found in other villages, you can't find them in indigenous communities, hospitals, clinics, you can't find them. These are the things that we're saying. We need to speak to these various governments so that they can look inward and say these are also citizens of these countries and therefore they deserve development. This is where we find the space within Southern Africa, and we believe IPNeSA is strategically positioned to speak to indigenous people, to awaken that spirit and the sense of belonging that we also need, we deserve developments from our country, and also the countries and the governments of Southern Africa to know that they need to be predisposed to indigenous people in terms of development and in terms of their rights. And we believe that Botswana would lead the way, as it is a human rights-based government, as they have said. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mahodu. I'll ask Mr. Nicodemus, we are on first name basis here. So the way forward for IPNeSA, how does it look like within the next 5 years in terms of community engagement? How are you looking at working with communities to strengthen the voice of IPNeSA in the next coming years?
Thank you very much for the question, Jean. IPNeSA has a responsibility to deliver on its mandate, on its vision. Resources permitting, just like Comrade SG has mentioned, that it is important that we visit our members wherever they are in the Southern African region. And we can only achieve that when we have resources. So we have a duty to mobilize and gather resources to make sure that that is achieved. And when we started to form IPNeSA, it was formed by only 3 countries, as mentioned, Namibia, Botswana, and South Africa. But we've since been joined by Zimbabwe. Because as we go, we map where other indigenous peoples are. And we know there is a San community in Zimbabwe that actually joined us during the policy conference last year. So the road ahead really shows that we've set ourselves a very ambitious road that we believe we can achieve if resources permit. I'll give an example, especially in the context of historical injustices. from the community that I come from, the Nama people. Because exactly 118 years ago from today, the German Schutztruppe gave an extermination order on the 22nd of April 1908 against the Nama people to exterminate them from the then German Southwest Africa, now Namibia. So genocide by its nature, it makes you flee if you are lucky. But if not, you get killed. So some of us who have found ourselves in in Botswana or maybe in South Africa, that clearly shows you that those are possibly our descendants or ancestors who managed to flee somehow. Otherwise, they would have been killed. So these historical injustices haven't been addressed. So we need to find a way that redress is achieved. And we are talking about, talking with the most powerful countries in this world. Germany is a very well-resourced country. And having to take this, us as communities, we don't have those resources. That's just one of the examples. We've talked about our communities having lost land, have lost language, and because of these historical injustices. So you can see how we really need to find resources so that we minimize the impact. We restore or revitalize our languages. We have to find a way to have land back so that we resuscitate our indigenous economies within our communities. So we really wish to continue occupying spaces like this. And we have to find ways of sustaining that. Not only Nicodemus Cooper attends events like this, but we do have larger delegations accompanying myself, or even if I'm not there, somebody else is able to fit in any platform and be able to drive the mandate of IPNeSA. That is just one of the many tasks that lie ahead of us. And of course, we cannot do this without solidarity, working with other existing indigenous-led organizations globally, especially what we see in East Africa. East Africa is really doing well, and we would really like to find ways to work closer. We've been working with them, and we've given each other solidarity, but we need to even strengthen more our relations with organizations, not only in East Africa, but Africa generally and globally. Yeah.
So if there's more to add, you can pass the mic to Helena. In terms of, now I'll ask you to speak on the position of you as a women voice, because we do represent you. You come as an indigenous person as well as an indigenous women in the space, with an added, layer to the issues that indigenous communities do have. So as indigenous women within IPNeSA, for the future, what do you think the space looks like for women in Southern Africa?
Thank you for the question. For the women in Southern Africa, I think over the years, we as women from South Africa, Namibia, and Botswana, a lot of us have been able to get into the space and being part of international indigenous women organizations. And with IPNeSA, what we're currently trying to do is to form indigenous women organizations in our communities for women to be able to know their rights, and for them to know the private role they currently already playing in our communities, being the ones who is the transmitters of traditional knowledge. And for IPNeSA, we are already doing that. And just to say that I am not a woman representative for IPNeSA, but I've been in the space with especially being part of the Global Leadership School that's run by the International Indigenous Women Forum. It's a great honor to being part of IPNeSA and being able to try and to see how we can get the youth and women more involved, because over the years, especially in the communities where we come from, it was always the men that represented our indigenous communities. And with the help and the relationships and the networks that we formed through these international indigenous women organizations, we are now able to, as IPNeSA, get onto grassroots women, empower them, give them awareness, especially on CEDAW and the General Recommendation 39 that is so important for our women to know. And also being here with the International Indigenous Women Forum for the seminar at New York University. We was really able to connect as a woman from grassroots, and we get to the point to see that all these knowledge that we find here, we need to really try to see how we can get this all into our indigenous languages to be more simplified for our communities to understand and to know about their women's rights. Yeah, that's what.
Thank you so much, really for bringing that on behalf of what a women voice looks like in a space like this from your own perspective. So now, Mr. Mohodu, I will ask you about some of the barriers that you have experienced leading to this day since the establishment of IPNeSA. What are the barriers that you identify? We're still speaking into the way forward, but then you can tie those two together into to your discussion into what were the barriers and some of the ways you perhaps walked around some of the barriers, and then what do you see for the next 5 years as the Vice President of IPNeSA in terms of the work you're doing in Southern Africa?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think one overarching barrier that I see is resource, finance. Because, for us as a regional organization, to be able to reach indigenous communities, we need financial resources for us to do that. And I believe this is one of the things that is setting us back not to reach our mandate, because as a regional organization, if we are to reach one community or one country, we need resources. And the second barrier that I foresee and I believe will experience is the different countries that we are in, the lack of buy-in from these countries. Some countries are adamant that we are all indigenous people. This is the notion of Africa. And the fact that sometimes they feel that we are bringing tension when we speak about the rights of indigenous people, and we are digging some of the things that long have been buried. If you talk about land restitution, more especially in South Africa. Now, what you are saying actually is that the land has to be taken away from the Bantu who have taken the land from the whites. Because actually, if they believe that land was taken away from them in 1930, the question now still remains, where was this land before 1930? It was with the indigenous people. Therefore, it will mean that that land should be taken away from them. You go to Botswana, the same thing. When the settlers came into Botswana, they settled in Botswana some years ago when they were running away from Difakani, and they took our land. So in other words, when you talk about land restitution, that's why the government does not subscribe to land expropriation, because they know to expropriate land will mean taking land from themselves to give it to the indigenous people, and they will never allow that. So what we are then saying now is, okay, give us development within the land that we are in. And for instance, Central Kalahari Game Reserve, let it be the land for the indigenous people, and let development go to this country so that it can be developed into an indigenous paradise. So I think these are some of the things that we will be facing as we go out to confront these countries. Because remember, one of the things that we encounter is that we don't have representation in parliament, in legislation, in ministries, and all those things. We don't have representation. So we are talking not part of the running of the government, but we are talking as people who are outside. And when these people meet and discuss, we don't know what we are saying. So they are saying. So these are some of the barriers that I believe we are facing. Then another barrier that is very detrimental to us is the fact that, you know, most of the indigenous people do not accept that they are indigenous, more especially in Botswana. For instance, for so many years we've been vilified. You go to South Africa, they call themselves colours. You go to Botswana, they refer themselves as Botswana or what. You go to Zimbabwe, they will rather speak this language of Mzilikazi. What is this language? They will,
language.
sorry?
We'll say a local.
Yeah, they will speak a language that is not Ndebele. They will speak in Ndebele. You go to Botswana, they speak Tswana. You go to South Africa, they speak Afrikaans. So, you know, this is another thing that we are facing because our language has been taken away, not by force actually, but by design. In Botswana, they are telling us that we are Tswana. In South Africa, they say you are colored. So you don't actually have a language. So this language, it was done strategically to deprive us of our identity and our language so that we cannot stand up and claim our rights. So these are some of the challenges that we'll be facing as IPNeSA.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mohodu, on raising these difficult barriers that we have to face, and you have to face as a body, IPNeSA. This has been the 2 years, after 2 years, reflecting on where IPNeSA is right now since they have launched here in 2024. Now I think we've come to the end of the program, but I will give it right back to the team to do just one team member to do a closing remark. Is it Mr. Nicodemus? Yes. To do a closing remark and really summarize what the discussion has been on, and what are your key takeaways, and what is the hope moving from here as members of IPNeSA, and where the network is leading you as a team.
Thank you very much, Jane. And in the time constraints that we see, I think really for us as IPNeSA is to advance our appreciation, sincere appreciation to our supporters. ACRA, African Communities Resource Rights Alliance, and JAMA International, Youth with a Mission Association, Cultural Survival, and other partners for really this amazing support they have given us over time. What I need to reiterate is that, especially to the country members that we have our members in, is to assure them that we as IPNeSA have positioned ourselves that we are an organization that is really willing to work with governments to offer solutions not to be on the opposing side always, but rather to be an organization that is solution-driven, that wishes to partner with government and close the gaps that we've seen over the time. With that, we would like to thank everyone in this journey and continue to appeal for more support going forward.
Okay, so we have 2 minutes to open up for any questions from the floor. If anyone has a question that they want to raise, we have 2 minutes left for that.
Hello. My dad is gonna do the question, but I'm gonna translate because he's gonna ask in Spanish.
Gracias. Hablar de restitución de tierra es complejo. El caso colombiano, la Oficina Central del Gobierno de Restitución de Tierra, el director es un indígena y hemos avanzado de manera significativa en este proceso de la restitución de las tierras que han sido despojados los pueblos indígenas por parte de los grupos armados y del narcotráfico. La pregunta es cómo podemos articular, cómo podemos hermanar para que podamos en algún momento hacer un evento concreto entre las partes para conocer las experiencias.
So my dad was talking about how the restitution of land in Colombia works. We're from Colombia, and over there the indigenous people, the land is stole by the criminal organizations. So he's asking like if there is an experience or a way that talk about previous experience so we can work along and affront this problem over there.
And if I may add, he also mentioned that the leader or the person, the chairperson who is overseeing the land restitution agency is indigenous relative. So that's why it's been easy kind of to move forward with that. Yeah, and the question as he mentioned, like how we can articulate through, maybe a gathering between these two experiences to talk about it and go over it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I think let me borrow from the experience of South Africa, where they have Expropriation Act. But unfortunately in South Africa, it's just only looking at the year 1930. Not back where the indigenous people's land was taken away from them. But I think to answer your question, it would be good to have a legal framework that speak to expropriation. And if there is a legal framework or a policy that guides the expropriation of land from the people who took it and restore it to where the land has been taken. So if there is that framework, then it will be easy to follow whether the framework has been done well. So I think from your point of view, from your country, what you need to do is to advocate for a policy that speaks about expropriation, to restore the land that has been taken away from you. Lastly, there should be a political will for those who are, for the rulers to be able to see it fit that land has to be restored where it was taken. Because in most cases, the land that has been taken away has not been bought. The land that has been taken away has been forcibly taken from the people. And now when you talk about restoration of land, then they will be talking about buying the land. Well, the land was taken from you without having been bought. So I think what we need to do as indigenous people is to speak about policy framework. It is speak about legal framework that will be able to guide us on how land can be taken away from the people who took the land from us and given us it to us, so that we can be able to even advocate for this in the courts of law when these things are not be done. So if the policies are not made, the next step will be then to approach the courts to talk about restoration of your land that has been taken away from you. Thank you so much. I hope I answered your question.
Are there any more questions from the floor?
Stango Hope Craig Jahajifkados is Jim Muskogogi Does. I have more of a comment. My name is Hope Craig, and I'm of the Muskogee people. First of all, I came in late, but it was such an honor to hear everything that you had to say. I really appreciate uplifting that even in countries throughout Africa, instead of saying you're African or you're this or that, you have to speak to the people that you come from. Because as indigenous people, if we just use these terms, even here in the lower 48 in the States, we often use the term Native American. To me, that means nothing. Because Native American is not a language. And that's why there is erasure. Native American don't speak Muskogee, but Muskogee, we have a language. We have culture, we have traditions. I also want to comment when you talked about land restoration. We have to call it for what it is. We can't go to them and say we want our land back, we want to buy it. It's the words that we use. Our land was stolen, it was taken away from us, and we have to call it for what it is. And so I just wanted to make that comment, Mado, for everything that you're saying, and I hope to talk to you afterwards. I just really interested in a lot that you had to say today. So, Mado.
Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to the session. We have come to the end of our time. Thank you very much. We really appreciate